Do you have one thing that you've always wanted to try, you're just not able to? Like, you physically cannot bring yourself to? Let's be real. The reason why you're not doing this thing that you've always wanted to try, whether it's starting a YouTube channel, starting a business, going out and starting a new career, it's because of one thing: fear. So today we're going to talk about the different types of fear, how to get over them, and how to do that dream thing that you've always wanted to start. What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Grace Tori, and I'm back with a whole new podcast episode. Like I mentioned, today we're getting into why you should do something despite the fear, what type of fear this is, and how to get over it. So I'm really excited. I've just been thinking a lot about, letting go of the control, letting go of the fear, and doing things that I feel like I'm called to do. Like, you know how there's always that one thing on your heart that it's like, I'm good at this, I'm naturally good at this, like, I've always wanted to do this, but I haven't done it for one reason or another. Those are the things I'm talking about. Like, those are the things that are just like on your heart, like it's a gut feeling and you want to try it, whether it's like something you've always been good at or not. It's something you feel like you are meant to be doing. You just don't because you're scared. So that's what we're all talking about today. I hope you guys are staying warm. Literally yesterday we had a flood. Literally a flood, like a whole flood. And then today we woke up and it's snowing and there's like a whole snowstorm happening. So a little confused, not really sure what's happening, but I enjoy the snow. I'm living in a little snow globe, so I'm really happy about that. Silver lining. But I hope you guys are staying safe no matter what the weather is like where you are, because I know it's being quite insane over here. Before we jump in, don't forget to like, follow, comment, subscribe, whatever the term is on the platform you're listening on. We are a community of women who are working to become the best version of ourselves, and if you want to join, feel free to. Every little subscription follow helps, takes about 0.2 seconds, and it's free. So why not? All right, let's go ahead and jump on in. I'm Grace Tori, and you're listening to That Girl, the podcast. Grab a beverage of choice and settle in, because the new episode is starting now. So like I said, the reason that you don't do things that you desperately want to comes down to two types of fear, mainly. So the fear of judgment, which is also like the fear of being seen. I kind of lump those two together. And then also the fear of failure. So we're going to break down what both of these mean. What is the fear of judgment or the fear of being seen? So the fear of judgment is a fear that people are going to judge you, whether it's people you know or people you don't know. I think that you're more scared of the people that you know typically because you hold their opinion a lot more highly than you hold the opinions of people you don't know. You can definitely still have a fear of judgment from the masses, like in general, or people in general, or society in general. But it's more common that you have a fear of like your friends or your family judging you, or maybe it's even someone that like bullied you in high school. You're worried they're going to find out and just it's going to open up the floodgates to more judgment. Like, fear of judgment is quite literally fear of being judged. And then there's also the fear of being seen. This can break down into its whole podcast episode entirely, like its own thing. But the fear of being seen is what it sounds like, that if you're going to be seen, then you're going to have to deal with all the things that come with that. So negativity, positivity, the responsibility that comes with it, the changes that come with it. There are a lot of things that come with being quote unquote seen that you are afraid of, whether that's consciously or subconsciously. I know that's something I'm working on, like a fear of people actually seeing me for who I am and not the person that I have specifically crafted that I know will be popular or well liked. Like, you know how you can mask? I have ADHD, so I mask really bad, where like you present the version of someone, yourself, that you think someone wants to meet versus the person that you actually are. The fear of being seen for me specifically is a fear of being seen for who I actually am, which with the podcast, you guys see me for who I actually am more often than the person that I mask when I'm in social situations. So I think that that's a big thing for me. And it's hard. When you break it down, the fear of judgment also includes the fear of losing someone due to that judgment. So maybe you have a best friend who has always said like, people who do this are so cringy, or like people who dress this way are so chuggy, or whatever the term is these days. And you hear that and you think to yourself like, well, I want to do that, or I want to be that. Like, if I do that, they're going to judge me and I'm going to lose them. So there's the underlying fear of losing someone, whether it's more authentic and being like, you know, I love a certain person, or I act a certain way, or I'm built this way, and you're worried that people are going to judge you for that. We're not really going to get into that deep of a decision. This is literally like starting a business, but that is something that plays into that, where you have a fear of losing someone because they judge you in your decisions. Next is the fear of not being enough. So you're scared that I'm not going to be enough for someone. They have these expectations set for me and I'm not going to reach those. Or maybe the fear of not being enough is within yourself. Like you're not going to reach your own expectations for yourself. I also struggle with this. And so when you do things, you don't want to fail, so you just don't do them. Like a fear of you're gonna not reach a certain milestone and you're gonna give up, or you're gonna do this, or you're gonna do that. Like it's not gonna happen for you, and so your fear that you're not gonna be good enough comes through because you're putting these thoughts in your head. Like not only are you setting expectations that are really hard to reach at this point in time, or maybe you're already telling yourself like, I don't have the self-discipline to do this every single day, so I am gonna fail, and I'm scared that I'm gonna fail, but I know I'm gonna fail. So the fear of failure, or the fear of not being good enough, falls into that. And then the second type of fear that goes along with the fear of judgment and fear of being seen is fear of failure, which is exactly what it sounds like. This kind of falls into the fear of not being good enough. I don't know if you've noticed, but all of these are kind of connected. Like fear that you're going to fail, that you're not going to be good enough and you're going to fail. You're not going to be successful. You're going to let yourself down. You're expecting you're going to give up. And I think that the key to getting through the fear of failure is defining what success or failure means to you, because you can say that your bar of success is where somebody else is, but maybe that's not where it should be. Like, for me, maybe if I were to go out and say, like, oh, I'm gonna get 1 million subscribers to my YouTube by next month, there's a pretty big chance that I'm not gonna meet that. So putting that pressure on myself is gonna create a fear of failure. And it's not that I couldn't do it, it's just that realistically, like when I think about, oh, I have this job and I have to do this and I have all these responsibilities on me, I logistically would not be able to do that unless a miracle happened. And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, don't shoot for the stars, because you could, but I'm trying to use an example that's so obviously like, yeah, I probably am not going to reach that, to show you that that definition of success may not be how you should be viewing yourself. Like, maybe I didn't reach 1 million subscribers in 1 month, but I am so close to hitting 800 on YouTube, like so close, like within 5, and that's so exciting. So if I just redefine success to say, oh, I can reach 800 or 850 in the next month, that is so much more productive, and then my version of success is achievable, and I'll reach that success and I won't fail. So I think that it's okay to set the expectation of I want 1 million subscribers, but have benchmarks that you are capable and logistically and realistically able to do within a time frame, so that you aren't just quote unquote failing and you're meeting that success that you have set for yourself. Because at the end of the day, we define success, and it could not be subscribers. It could be I get better at public speaking, or I get better on speaking on camera, or I reach out to more people, I showcase something I'm good at, whatever. Like, your version of success is your version of success. It's nobody else's. So you set the base. So overcoming fear of failure is defining that success and making it something you can show up for. So now we're going to talk about why you should do whatever that thing is that you've wanted to anyway. So I think first and foremost, it's important to know that if someone judges you, they're not your people. They're not your group. They're not your person. Because someone who loves you unconditionally is not going to judge you. And I think that it's also important to distinguish the difference between worrying about someone and judging them. I know when someone worries about you and they express that worry, sometimes we are very emotionally attached to the thing that we are wanting to accomplish. So we get very upset and defensive, and we take that worry and turn it into judgment. Like, oh, if you quit your job right now to podcast full time, you're not going to have money. Like, Grace, are you sure this is the decision you want to make? And that's just one example. I'm not quitting my job, putting that out there. But if I were to go to my mom and say, like, hey, I'm quitting my job to start podcasting full time, she would be like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is maybe not a good idea. Like, how are you going to make money? I don't think you should do this. And that's not her judging. That's her genuinely worrying. And it's coming from a place of love and care. And it's not her telling me, like, you shouldn't podcast. It's her telling me, maybe don't quit your job and find a different way to do this thing that you love. So I think that it's important to know the difference between judging someone and worrying about them. And it just comes from a place of love versus a place of something more negative like jealousy or hate or misunderstanding, whatever it is, a bias of some sort. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about the science behind fear. Fear is triggered by something, right? So you need to do some reflection and ask yourself what this fear is caused by when you catch yourself having a type of fear. And it could be the type that I talked about. It could be something totally different. It could be coming from a certain memory you have, a certain trauma that you have or have gone through, anxiety, which could just be your mental disorder acting up if you have anxiety and it's like diagnosed. I know as someone who has anxiety, you don't always have a memory or a trigger that causes you to be anxious. You just are because of the way your brain works. And that's a little bit more difficult to work with than having like a memory that you can pinpoint and say like, wait a minute, but we'll get into that. So I think that when you figure out what that fear is and where it stems from, it's time to gently reparent yourself. So basically, you're talking to the version of yourself that first experienced this memory, had this trauma, and more often than not, it's from a young age. So you're talking to your inner child and reparenting them to work through this and overcome it. And I'm not saying that you're suddenly not going to be scared and you're not going to be fearful of this, but you're going to be at a point where you can function and think it through and do it scared. So I think that as someone who has had anxiety most of my life, and whether it's anxiety or it's a trauma or something like that, because trust me, your girl has those too, it's important to get logical. So when I am feeling anxious or traumatic things have happened or whatever, and I'm diving deep into that and reparenting myself, I look at it from a logical standpoint versus an emotional. So talk to your inner child about this in a logical way. Just an example is maybe you are afraid of people leaving you. You have some sort of wound of being abandoned. So you tell yourself, people are always going to leave me. That's the affirmation that you've told yourself for a long time. People are always going to leave. I have a fear of being abandoned. I have a fear of losing people. They're always going to leave. And the logical thing that you need to tell yourself is just because someone left in the past doesn't mean that someone else is going to leave again. Or maybe it's that person who has come back into your life and it's okay to have your guard up, but maybe they've changed as a person. And so from a logical standpoint, if it's someone that you don't know and hasn't given you a reason, then tell yourself, like, this person loves me. They have not given me any reason to believe that they are going to leave me. And then list off the reasons why they love you or why they're going to stay in your life. It could be because they love you. It could be because they love your stories. It could be because, oh my gosh, this one time they showed up for me when I really needed them to, and that proved to them that they love me. Or that, yeah, they love me and, like, I love them. Like, these are the ways I've showed up for them. This relationship is amazing because of XYZ. So you're proving to yourself logically that people love you and they're not going to leave you. You take the emotion out of it to a certain extent. You're still going to be emotional, but to a certain extent you take it out and you just say, like, this is not true. This thought that I have is not true because of this. And then whenever you start to think like, oh, people are always going to leave me, then you turn around and say, no, people love me. My people love me unconditionally. They're in my corner. They fight for me. Whatever your affirmation is that is going to make you feel better. So another thing that you can do when you start your journey of whatever it is that you are embarking on is don't tell anyone. Just eliminate the societal pressure of having people that you know looking, and don't tell them. Create an anonymous account. Create an account and just don't tell them. And if they happen to see it and one thing I've learned is that if I make an account and people come across it and whether I'm anonymous or not, like, they don't talk to me about it. They don't approach me. And I don't care. Like, they're not, like, what you think of me is none of my business, honestly. Like, it's just, you have to view it, especially if you want to do something like YouTube or something like that, you have to view it from the standpoint of, like, their opinion of me is their opinion of me, and that's none of my business. If they want to discuss it with me, they will bring it forward, and then it will become my business. But if they judge me based on something that I post or I do that makes me happy, then that's their prerogative, and that's them being an unkind person. That's not my problem, honestly. So don't tell anyone. You can make it anonymous, you can not make it anonymous, but you don't have to post it and broadcast it and say, follow my new thing. Like, yeah, you'll have less followers maybe, but if the people that you're telling about it, that you know personally, you're worried about them judging you, then it's better to just start from nothing and grow your following from people that don't know you personally. I promise you, it's not that hard. Like, it's not that scary. And those 5-10 followers are not going to make a huge difference in the end. It's important to also set boundaries. So, for example, if you're worried about people you don't know commenting on your stuff, you can set filters. And again, this is not just for starting YouTube. I'm just using this example because I know a lot of people are scared to do it, and social media is something they're interested in, and it's like an easy one to apply. But if you want to talk about your specific thing that you're wanting to start, definitely reach out and we will break it down in this format if you need help with it. I just am doing this because it's one example that's easy. But set boundaries. There are comment filters on pretty much all social media platforms now where you can filter if anything comes across as harassment, bullying, negative. You can filter out certain words. If they use a certain word, you can filter it out. Those are a way to set boundaries to eliminate the chances of people being able to say hurtful things to you and feeling judged by them. Also, it's important that when you're starting out to keep things fun and not stressful. Don't focus on the success. Don't focus on going from 0 to 100. Don't focus on making it your full-time income. You're having fun and indulging in something that you love and you've been passionate about for a long time and you've been scared to start. So find the fun in it. Make it fun. Focus on making friends in this new area that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of each other. And yeah, just keep it like a vibe. You're not trying to stress yourself out and turn it into this scary thing. So it's important to do it scared. At the end of the day, we're honestly just given one life that we know of. Like, we're just here vibing. So who cares if Brad from Kansas doesn't like what you're doing and has something to say about it, so he trolls you? Like, are you really going to let Brad from Kansas stop you from doing what makes you happy or living your dream? Please tell me you're not going to do that. Be so for real right now. That is not a good enough reason for you to forfeit your happiness, okay? The last thing I want to talk about is the art of letting go. I kind of mentioned this a little at the beginning, but I think that the world just, like, flows better and you just feel like a weight is lifted off your chest when you let go of control. You stop fearing, you stop having to be in control, you stop fighting the waves to try and make it happen. You just follow your gut and let things fall into place. And that's not to say things aren't going to be hard. That's not to say that you aren't going to struggle sometimes. I know that, like, today when I was reading a book on my couch, cozied up, looking at the snow, my dogs were asleep on top of me, I was like, I don't really want to go film. I don't really want to go work. Like, I want to stay right here and snuggle. But I had to, because I'm showing up for you guys and I'm showing up for myself because this is something I'm passionate about. And I think that by forcing myself to do that and feeling like it's harder today than most days is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you constantly feel like you're pushing against something and it's not working out. That's when you need to reevaluate, because maybe it won't work out in the way that you think it will, but that doesn't mean that it's not working out in the end. Like, I used to push myself for the podcast. Like, I mean, everything was about the podcast. I was either writing an outline or posting, and I was posting like 3 to 4 TikToks a day, and I was posting on shorts, and I was having 2 podcast episodes out a week, and I was freaking out because it still wasn't enough. Like, I still wasn't where I wanted to be, and that was a level that I had set for myself, like a bar that I had set for myself. And a lot of social media is strategy mixed with luck. We've talked about that. So I was just like, I almost felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, like panicking. And I wasn't like flowing. It didn't feel right. I was just so scared that I wasn't gonna make it. Like, I was gonna I was gonna fail, that I never stopped to ask myself, like, one, is this working? Two, am I enjoying this and having fun? Three, honestly, what the heck? Like, what is going on? And I think that after I sat down and got honest with myself and said, hey, these are the boundaries I'm going to set. I'm going to go down to posting 1 episode a week. I am still going to post, but it's going to be different content on like TikTok and Shorts that's easier for me to create. And I'm not going to post as much. Like, I'm not going to put as much pressure on myself. I'm not going to spend hours researching. I'm going to post what feels good and what feels right. And there's certain days where I'm not going to work on the podcast. Like, those were boundaries I set for myself, and I feel so much better. It's not just like I'm no longer overworking myself. I'm also working from a place of like enjoyment and fun and magic, and just like I'm not burning myself out, but I'm also in flow, if that makes sense. Like, it feels right. My gut says this is right, and I do have the guilt of like I should be working harder, but it's manageable and it's something that I'm working through, and that's something that I feel in all areas of my life. So I know that it's something that I just need to heal from in therapy. So that is an example that I'm gonna like share with you guys. Like, when you feel like you need to let go, or you don't have any choice but to let go, or you're slipping and you're drowning and you don't necessarily know which way to turn, and you want something so bad but you just feel like it's not gonna happen, let go. Take a break, or don't, but do it because you enjoy it, and only do it when you're in the mood. Don't do it when you like feel like the world's crashing down and you have to push through. Because when people notice, two, you're healing, you're growing, you're healing yourself from the mindset of I have to work harder and not smarter. And that's, yeah, we're just going to let go, and 2025 is about finding what makes us happy and flowing and just reaching that on our own terms in our own time, because there isn't a ticking time bomb somewhere that's going to go off if you don't meet your whatever within a certain timeline. Like, it's all up to you and the expectations that you put on yourself. So be gentle with yourself. You're reparenting yourself. You're revisiting past trauma. You're handling mental issues. You're adulting in a time where it's very, very hard to adult and find yourself and find your calling. And you need to be gentle and let it all fall into place. So that is it for today's episode. I love you guys so, so much. Don't forget to follow, like, all the things. I did start a newsletter. I actually started 2, and they're on Substack, so definitely reach out and check those out. I'll link them down below. One of my newsletters is poetry, and then one is specifically the podcast related, so I'll definitely share that down below, and you can check both of those out. One is called Poems of a People Pleaser, and one is called That Girl, so I would really appreciate any support that you gave me on there, as well as on here. Don't forget to leave a comment letting me know if you have any tips for letting go and getting over fear, or if there's anything that helped you out today. I would love to hear about that as well. I love you guys so much. You can follow me at Instagram, TikTok, all the things down below, and I will see you next week. Bye, guys.
You was the first